I want to start tonight by asking you to think about everything that has happened surrounding the investigations into January 6th this week alone. The House committee investigating the attack on the Capitol voted unanimously to refer contempt of Congress votes to the House floor for former top Trump advisors Peter Navarro and Dan Scavino. We got reporting from the Washington Post that the Justice Department is now widening its scope to include the financing and the planning of the rally that preceded the attack on January 6th. We also saw bombshell reporting about a 7-hour and 37-minute gap in Donald Trump's phone logs from the day of the attack. And just today, Donald Trump's son-in-law and former senior advisor Jared Kushner sat for a virtual interview with the House Select Committee, making him the first member of the Trump family to be interviewed. We should note that Kushner was not in the United States leading up to the events of January 6th. He was in Saudi Arabia, and he didn't return until the day of the riot. But buried in last week's headlines that Ginny Thomas, wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, texted then White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, urging him and Trump to overturn the 2020 election, was a text that showed that Meadows was not the only official in the Trump White House that Ginny Thomas had reached out to. In a text sent to Meadows on November 13th, Ginny Thomas wrote the following: "Just forwarded to your Gmail an email I sent Jared this AM. Sidney Powell and improved coordination now will help the cavalry come and fraud exposed and America saved." That's the wife of a Supreme Court justice texting that. So even as we learn more about the events surrounding the insurrection, we are left with so many questions about who knew what and when, and maybe even how. And those are exactly the questions the House committee investigating the Capitol riot is trying to answer. Joining me now is Democratic Congresswoman Stephanie Murphy of my home state of Florida. She is a member of the House Select Committee investigating January 6th. Congresswoman, thank you so much for being here. Thrilled to have you. Let me start by asking you straight out of the gate, what can you tell us about the interview with Jared Kushner today?
I can't really tell you much about the interview with Jared Kushner. It's policy for the Select Committee not to comment on the folks that have appeared before us. But let me just say that the committee has been doing incredible amounts of work. We've had over 800 people come in for interviews or depositions, and it has been very enlightening for us. And I recognize that there is a desire and a demand from the media as well as the American public about what happened on January 6th. And in good time, the committee will tell that story in a holistic way as we continue to do the hard work of gathering the facts. And then when the time is right, we will present all of that.
Yeah, and Congresswoman, respecting the idea that you can't really talk about what's going on behind those closed doors, can you at least tell us whether or not you did find the time spent with Jared Kushner to be helpful in terms of the purpose and the mission of the January 6th committee?
Absolutely. The time spent with him was helpful, and I'm grateful that he chose to spend time with the committee. I think, you know, people who love this country and who want to ensure that we support our Constitution and ensure nothing like January 6th happens again, have come before our committee and have provided us with really important information about the run-up to January 6th, as well as what happened on the day of January 6th. And obviously, given his proximity to leadership in the White House, he had good information to provide us, as have many of the other folks that we have talked to through both depositions as well as interviews.
Are you able to tell us whether or not he's done with you today, or do you reasonably anticipate that he's going to have to come back for another day or perhaps maybe multiple days?
I honestly don't know, because I had to duck out for votes, and so I didn't catch the wrap up. So I'm sorry, I had to go down to the floor for votes, and I couldn't comment on that.
Well, so I guess my next question then would be, he voluntarily appeared, right? And that hasn't happened with several other people who were in that circle of trust or within kind of the White House and within the Oval Office. What does it tell you as a member of the committee that Jared Kushner wasn't forced to show up by a court order, that he voluntarily appeared to be able to answer the questions that your committee had today for him?
I'm glad that he showed the patriotism and the understanding of the rights of Congress to have oversight on these issues and responded appropriately to our request that he show in front of our committee. I think that the broad majority of the people who we have sought testimony from have showed up and have provided their perspective. Many of these people are actually proud of their role in what they did on January 6th and want to share their story. And the ironic piece is that some of the folks who are resisting coming in front of the committee, like Scavino or Navarro, they have no problems sharing their perspectives in the media and in books and in ways that benefit them personally, but have decided that they don't want to come in front of this committee. And there are ways in which we can handle that. As you know, this week we referred both Scavino and Navarro for criminal contempt of Congress because of their resistance to coming to provide information that they are out there willingly providing in public forums, but they're unwilling to come before this committee. And the courts have upheld Congress's authority and the Select Committee's purpose in a number of court cases, and I think that's really critically important too.
Well, I'm glad you bring up the involvement or the participation of our judicial system. That referral on Mark Meadows happened a long time ago. Is there some frustration on your part as a member of the January 6th committee that nothing has been done vis-a-vis that referral in terms of an indictment for Mark Meadows after your committee tried to get information or further information from him, him being Mark Meadows?
You know, I have a lot of respect for the balance of powers and the separate but equal branches of government. And the Department of Justice is in the executive branch, and so I wouldn't deign to tell them how to do their jobs, as I wouldn't want them to tell me how to do mine. But I do think that it's important that we get a response from them from that criminal contempt referral here soon. But, their timeline is within their control, and there's not a ton that we can do about it from a congressional perspective.
So in the kind of run-up to you being able to be here with us to be able to answer questions, I mentioned the fact that there were text messages that were turned over by Mark Meadows to the January 6th committee where Jared Kushner's name showed up. So his name pops up in the Ginny Thomas text messages. How can the January 6th committee not talk with someone like Ginny Thomas? And is she somebody that you are hoping to interview as well?
We're going to interview everyone who we believe has information to help us construct the facts around the run-up to January 6th and then what happened on January 6th. And I know there's a lot of media frenzy around Ginny Thomas, I think in large part because of the interest in who she's married to, but somebody's spouse doesn't include or preclude them from the Select Committee's scope of investigation. And so we're just taking each one of these cases one by one and reviewing whether or not the individual has information that we need in order to paint a full picture of what happened on January 6th in order for us to make legislative recommendations as to how to prevent that from happening ever again.
So to be clear, I just heard you say then that just the fact that somebody is a spouse, for example, if they have relevant information, or at least the committee thinks they have relevant information, the fact that it's the spouse of a sitting Supreme Court justice in and of itself would not be enough to dissuade the committee from being able to pursue whatever investigative threads or lines of investigation exist for you, right?
Yeah, we look at individuals for what they might know and be able to contribute to our investigation, and don't really pay a ton of attention to their status or their jobs or who they're related to. Our focus is purely on getting the facts for January 6th, and we hold everybody to the same standard. Do you have information that would be helpful for us in better understanding what happened and how we can prevent it from happening again?
So you've also spoken about how the committee is trying to, among others, triangulate perhaps what did Donald Trump know and what was he doing on the date of January 6th? I mean, what else does the committee need in order to solve that particular question?
We have, as I mentioned, received over 800 depositions and interviews, tens of thousands of documents, as well as over 400 tips off of our tip line. And so we're pursuing all of those things, and not just about the former president, but also about other people who were involved in this. Everyone from the people who helped finance this, the folks who cut ads to promote January 6th and to promote the big lie that resulted in an angry mob attacking the Capitol and trying to take the lives of members of Congress as well as the vice president. We're looking at this issue from all angles. And I think what I've said in the past is that, you know, sure, there are a handful of people who've decided not to cooperate with us, but nobody was operating in a vacuum. These folks had conversations with other people, and they had conversations in front of other people. And so we are able to collect the information we need to build a picture of what exactly happened, what led up to January 6th and what happened on the day of January 6th.
Congresswoman, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes, behind closed doors, about which the public and Americans are not privy to. How confident are you in the latest timeline that we've heard reporting about, that these public hearings for your committee, that they could happen in May? I mean, I think this date has been pushed back a little bit. So how confident are you that we'll be able to do that in May?
We will hold the public hearings when we are ready and feel confident that we've collected all the information we need in order to be able to present the full story to the American public, as well as a set of recommendations, which is a part of the objective of the committee. So I know this work has been going on kind of behind the scenes, and it's taken some time, and maybe this day has faded in the memory of the American people, but we, rest assured, we are collecting the information that we need to be able to tell the full story and get the facts out there, because what happened on January 6th was so unprecedented, and we have to guard against it. Whether we are Republicans, Democrats, or independents, we have to guard against the ability for any one person to overturn the will of the American people and the American voters.
On behalf of the American public, thank you, Congressman Stephanie Murphy from the January 6th Select Committee, for being here this evening. We appreciate it.